well, here we are. Turn that up just a little bit, and we're good. It is 7:31 p.m. on the 26th of February in 2022, and we are starting episode 70 of Cast Talks. So right now we're going into a slightly transitionary phase, just because of some background stuff happening. But I believe pretty soon I'm going to be restyling the entrance intro pre-stream stuff that happens just before we actually get into the show on Saturdays. So that will probably be about, just this week we'll have a little bit of like a what's going on situation. But very soon after that, if not literally for tomorrow's stream, which the streaming will resume a bit more than it has been recently, just simply because of some occurrences that have been going on in the world, which I think just about everybody is familiar with at this point. But that's not why we're here. Cast Talks is what we do on Saturdays, so we can chill out and cool off and have a lovely end of the week and go into next week feeling wonderful and beautiful as we would like to. Now, for the sake of what is going to be I think, fantastic and crazy episode, I'm looking forward to getting to some music and to getting to a little bit of good news too. So folks, I welcome you into the 70th episode, and welcome on back. Crazy stuff sometimes, absolutely insane to me. But either way, let me get my little thing ready. Let's see. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. All right, great. All right, well, thank you guys for joining me, whether it's here in the present or in the future. So we will start with our first good news. Let's see, how long is this one? It's not too long. Looks pretty good. Astronomers discover a new type of star covered in helium-burning ashes from 17th. A team of German astronomers, led by Professor Klaus Wrunner of the University of Tübingen, have discovered a strange new type of star covered in the byproduct of helium burning. It is possible that the stars might have been formed by a rare stellar merger event. There we go, that's better. While normal stars have surfaces composed of hydrogen and helium, the stars discovered by Wrunner and his colleagues have their surfaces covered with carbon and oxygen. The ashes of helium burning, an exotic composition for a star. The situation becomes more puzzling as the new stars have temperatures and radii that indicate that they are still burning helium in their cores, a property typically seen in more evolved stars than those observed by Wrunner and his team in this study. Published alongside the work of Professor Wrunner and his team, a second paper from a group of astronomers from the University of La Plata and the Max Planck University for Astrophysics offers a possible explanation for their formation. We believe the stars discovered by our German colleagues might have formed in a very rare kind of stellar merger event between two white dwarf stars. Interesting. White dwarfs are the remnants of larger stars that have exhausted their nuclear fuel and are typically very small and dense. Stellar mergers are known to happen between white dwarfs in close binary systems due to the shrinking of the orbit caused by the emission of gravitational waves. Usually, white dwarf mergers do not lead to the formation of stars enriched in carbon and oxygen, explains Miller Bertolami. But we believe that for binary systems formed with very specific masses, a carbon and oxygen-rich white dwarf, oh hello there, Rain, might be disrupted and end up on top of a helium-rich one, leading to the formation of these stars. Thank you for your dino love. And you got your Anarar dinos. Oh, I forgot that you had done that. Does she know that you're the same Rain Wolf? Does she know that that's you who subscribed to her? I don't know if she knows that. I hope that maybe I should tell her, because I don't think she knows. Or something. I'm sure she'd love that. Anyway, good to see you and welcome on in. Yet no current stellar evolutionary models can fully explain the newly discovered stars. Normally, we expect stars with these surface compositions to have already finished burning helium in their cores and to be on their way to becoming white dwarfs. Someone gifted it to you. Oh, wow. I forgot about that. These new stars, hello there, Chian. Welcome on in. I'm glad you can make it. Are a severe challenge to our understanding of stellar evolution, explains Professor Werner. Very interesting. Now, I will put in this one into the stream chat just for your sake, and for the sake of anyone else interested in listening in. Here we go. Researchers pioneered a way to use DNA from elephant tusks to catch poachers. 2 men from the Democratic Republic of the Congo were arrested on November the 3rd outside of Seattle, Washington, having been indicted on charges of trafficking after they were caught trying to smuggle 49 pounds of elephant ivory into the U.S. My lord. The men owe their indictment and day in court to Samuel Wasser, a crack sleuth on the trail of the world's major organized crime syndicates responsible for the trade in illegal wildlife parts, like elephant ivory. That's insane. His 15-year production of a database containing familial relationships between poached animals like elephants is creating maps, which authorities are using not only to make arrests of criminal henchmen, but identifying the geographical choke points organized crime is operating through henchmen. Actually being called a henchman is one thing, right? But actually being a henchman, oh lord, and being called it, it's a double whammy in my book. There we go, I think it's a little better, a little bit louder. Taking DNA samples of a single elephant tusk isn't likely to reveal anything that authorities, either rangers or detectives, might need to know to stop elephants being poached. Ivory is often mixed together in the scramble to smuggle it out of Africa, meaning that the right and left tusk of a single elephant could be separated by thousands of miles and hundreds of days. Directing the Center for Environmental Forensic Science at the University of Washington, Wasser has pioneered... Oh, hello there, Moss. Hello. Thank you for your medal. I don't think you're the first, but I will accept you as the first place Moss, the first Moss member. Whatever that means, you've got it. You're first. And I'm glad to have your medal, regardless. Sorry, I've gotten way off track talking about that medal. I don't know why that emote just seemed to stick out to me. Oh, Ella. Ella, I'm so glad you could make it. I'm really glad to see you. Really glad you could make it, even if it's just for a few minutes. Now when Wasser gets to take DNA samples from confiscating ivory, he can look for 2 distant familial matches in his database to get a picture of where the animals and their family lived and where they were smuggled to. He can gather family IDs, their migration paths, national park locations, airports, shipping ports, transit countries, nationality of arrested suspects, smuggling methods, and more that can give him and wildlife authorities an idea of the patterns poachers and their organized backers are using. Recently, in 2019, a seizure of 9 tons of ivory in Singapore allowed Wasser to enter dozens of individual genotypes into his database, which created a family tree of 40 familial matches. He can then look at where those familial matches came from, where they ended up, who was arrested in conjunction, and provide the authorities with leads to use in further busts, or even evidence to beef up prosecution power. Well, I hope that you're doing lovely today, Ella. I really do. Here's our next good news to anybody in the stream chat. Ooh, I've got myself some chamomile tea in my tumbler with some honey in it. It's very warm too. That's lovely. I never knew tumblers could keep your tea so warm, but they really do, don't they? It's like actually the perfect temperature, guys. I love that. I don't know why I didn't use tea that way before. You're pretty good. You went to the Asian store and got yourself something yummy, some Asian snacks, and found yourself some taro bubble tea. Oh, lovely. I don't think I've had bubble tea before. But that sounds lovely. New study busts the 7 dog years myth and explores data that could help humans live longer. A new study into how long dogs live breaks the myth that each of our years is 7 for dogs, and it could even help humans live longer because of it. A commonly held belief is that dogs age 7 times faster than us, so a 1-year-old dog is like a 7-year-old child. But large breeds age 10 times quicker than us, and some small dogs can be half of that. Now, scientists are studying the genomes of 10,000 dogs in a long-term study called the Dog Aging Project. And they hope they will be able to see why super centenarian dogs that live to 20 can survive so long and apply it to people. Professor Joshua Akey at Princeton University said, "This is a very large, ambitious, and wildly interdisciplinary project that has the potential to be a powerful resource for the broader scientific community. Personally, I find this project exciting because I think it will improve dog and ultimately human health. We are sequencing the genomes of 10,000 dogs. That's a lot of dogs. I can't even imagine 10,000 different dogs in the world. This will be one of the largest genetics data sets ever produced for dogs." Beard milking, hurry back, Moss. "And it will be a powerful resource not only to understand the role of genetics in aging, but also to answer more fundamental questions about the evolutionary history and domestication of dogs. One part of the project that I am super excited about is a super centenarian study comparing the DNA of exceptionally long-lived dogs to dogs that live to the average age for their breed." They hope to identify the specific biomarkers of canine aging. Professor Akey added, Akey, I don't know why that name sticks out to me for some reason. Added that this is the first study of its kind in dogs. And I think it's a clever way of trying to find genetic differences that contribute to exceptional longevity. They participate and anticipate that their findings will translate to human aging for several reasons. Dogs experience nearly every functional decline and disease of aging that people do. The extent of veterinary care parallels human health care in many ways, and our dogs share our lived environments, a major detriment of aging and one that cannot be replicated in any lab setting. Professor Daniel Promislo at the University of Washington and principal investor said, given that dogs share the human environment and have a sophisticated healthcare system, but are much shorter lived than people, they offer a unique opportunity to identify the genetic, environmental, and lifestyle factors associated with healthy lifespan. Well, lovely. I didn't know that. I mean, I hadn't thought, I suppose I knew, but I hadn't thought that there would be so many similarities between human aging and animal aging, but, it makes sense that there are, right? Scientists discover how to destroy toxic PFAS, the forever chemicals. The media has dubbed them forever chemicals, but now scientists are putting their name to the test. Perfluorinated and polyfluorinated alkyl substances are known to be nearly impossible to break apart and tend to accumulate in groundwater sources, soils, and other places. Their health effects are known, as is a new method to destroy 99% of them in water sources. Known as supercritical water oxidation, SWO, a paper recently published found the procedure could destroy 99% of a wide variety of known and unknown PFAS contained in a water sample. When water is heated up to 374 degrees Celsius, that's 705.2 Fahrenheit, under pressures of 220 bar, it becomes not gas nor liquid, but a state known as supercritical. Here, accelerated oxidation and other reactions cause the PFAS to dissolve into component elements, which can more readily be collected and disposed of. I didn't know about supercriticals. In testing SWO, the EPA-backed researchers found that only 27% of the weight of the water sample's fluoridated content came from the PNAs the scientists were starting, suggesting a larger portion belonged to forever chemicals not identified in the study. Such a finding lends huge credence to SWO as a cleaning method. As a destructive technology, SCWO may be an alternative to incineration and could be a permanent solution for PFAS-laden wastewaters, rather than disposal by injection into a deep well or landfilling. And if that's not something that's familiar to you, people actually do that. They basically create this tube of either extremely non-porous substances. I think it would have to be like lead. No, lead's very porous, never mind, not lead. But they make a tube, probably metal, in the ground, and they just pipe as much of the toxic water into it as they can. And they just leave it there. Or they put it in a landfill and then cap it with concrete. And that's just the way that we get rid of these things right now, which is really not what we would prefer, because we can only cap so many landfills before there's not enough room left to cap them. Luckily, we're not quite close to that yet. Luckily. And thank you for using the highlight message thing there, Moss. I appreciate it. Discovering a way to destroy these chemicals is valuable because restricting their manufacturing and use would be difficult, because they are prized for their ability to resist oil and water and high temperatures, and because they are one of the principal components of firefighting technology. Given that supercritical water oxidation systems are already commercially available, This may be a technology that could soon be deployed for significantly impacted sites or wastewaters. We are currently evaluating air emissions to understand all of the pathways and to be certain we are destroying the PFAS. Gosh. Well, I always like to hear more about like the destruction of seemingly indestroyable chemicals in the environment and stuff like that, because basically, like, we create them usually with the intention of having them be involved in some kind of, industrial use, and we can't do that simply because, once they're used, it's kind of like that's it, and we have to either get rid of them or hide them somewhere, dispose of them in that way. And disposing of them in this way, sure, I'm more happy about that, I'll say. So here is our next good news story. To comment on the dog article, I think dogs age faster for survival because it helps them start walking and learning to avoid predators and hunt. I agree with you. That's a huge reason why dogs don't live as long as humans, why most things don't live as long as humans. I think that might be the same reason why turtles live a very long time, is because they're like born with their shell, from what I know, in their egg. And so like they already have the shell when they were really young. And so they don't need to like do much, like they don't need to do much. They just succeed at surviving. And then if they just keep succeeding, like most lizards, they can live a very long time. But turtles in specific, I think that they live a long time because it's almost like they could just live that long anyway, but we don't see many of them live that long. Because I actually don't know that many turtles that pass from old age. Certainly it happens, but I have an aunt, and she has a turtle, or is it a tortoise? I don't know. But they can live extremely long lives, and it's older than she is. So I mean, maybe turtles and tortoises are like one of the things, like whales or like manta rays. I think it's manta rays. They can just live a very long time if nothing ever happens to them, which is very strange, but it does happen that way. 1 second, folks. All right, folks. So sorry for the interruption. Eternals are chill and stress-free. It's true they are. So, did I already put the new one into the chat? I did. Okay, cool. So, surviving 8,000-mile journey, a girl finally finds 6-foot boat launched by students. A student project focusing on learning about the oceans saw high schoolers launch a small boat filled with mementos drifting across the Atlantic. Lost at sea for 462 days, the vessel finally struck land in remote Norway, where a young 6th grade boy got to share it with his classmates. Back in the 2019-20 school year, Rye Junior High students in the classroom of science teacher Sheila Adams were told that they would be participating in an experiment with educational passages, a Maine-based nonprofit that teaches about oceans and their impact. However, after pandemic restrictions forced the students into remote learning, Miss Adams instructed them to design a piece of personalized artwork that could be scanned and copied and placed on top of the 6-foot boat, complete with mast, hull, and keel. The following school year, Adams was assigned to a different 5th grade class who were also scheduled to work with educational passages. Adams and executive director for EP, Cassie Stymist, decided to merge the project between the two classes and ask the new kids to load the cargo hold with small trinkets and decide what colors the boat would be painted. The boat, christened Rye Riptides, was launched from Massachusetts shore in October of 2020, equipped with a GPS tracker that occasionally would log waypoints showing the kids where their boat was. Here's a little picture of it in case you guys want to see. Here we go. It's got like a, it's like kind of a, it's this right here. It's not very big either. I mean, 6 feet, it is not that big. During hurricane season, the GPS stopped responding for a time before turning back on the 18th of August again for September the 30th, which didn't transmit its location for 4 months. Oh, I could turn the music off if you'd like. There we go. I'm sorry if that was offensive to you. I didn't know. Then on January the 30th, Stymist got an update. Rye Riptides had made landfall somewhere on the small island of Smola off the coast of Norway. This is an educational project built by students in Rye, New Hampshire. USA contact Educational Passages for more information, and if you know anyone that can assist in the recovery to avoid damage to the vessel, Stymist wrote on the Norway Facebook group around the area in which the boat landed. It is an unscrewed vessel, like a message in a bottle, but we would like to recover it and have it brought to a nearby school to connect students. My brain completely misinterpreted what that said. I thought that story was about somebody who was stranded and actually had to use a boat that someone had launched to get back to a... The music is what makes me chill out before bed, though. I can put some new music on, don't worry. Don't worry. There's no need to try and find something yourself, you guys. I can get something that you'll like. Don't worry. I can find something for you. No need to worry at all. How's that for you? Ooh, I like this one, actually. Let me know how you feel about that one. Uh, 100 nations take action to save oceans from illegal fishing and plastic pollution from February the 18th. Representatives from more than 100 countries arrived last week in France for a summit on protecting oceans from pollution, plastic, and overfishing. The nation which birthed the most famous marine biologist in history, that'd be Jacques Cousteau, welcomed the One Ocean Summit, the highlight of which was a 43-nation agreement to create a treaty to regulate the high seas in a more sustainable way. A deal is looking likely when the United Nations meet. Yeah, are you good with that, Ryan? In March. And the president of the European Commission described one as so close. Being beyond the territorial jurisdiction of any country, the laws of the high seas must be made and changed through international accords, and thereby suffer from the tragedy of the commons. Problem that occurs whenever something is removed from the profit-loss function of the market. A largely European affair, the U.S., nevertheless, said it would throw its weight behind any proposals to introduce an international deal on curbing plastic pollution. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development joined the European Investment Bank and other state development banks to create a $4 billion euro fund for helping countries reduce their share of plastic pollution that ends up in the oceans. The summit in Brest also saw 6 more countries join the International Maritime Organization's Cape Town Agreement, which set safety standards for shipping vessels, while several EU nations said they would deploy their national navies to step up surveillance on illegal fishing vessels. Colombia and France also jointly announced a blue carbon financial program to help improve the restoration of coastal mangroves and other important ecosystems. Speaking for the private sector, 22 shipping countries pledged to reduce underwater noise pollution, sulfur pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions above deck, while 18 ports also signed on to reduce emissions. It's another good one. I can only hope that sort of change carries through. And here is another one. How many pictures of whales? Not many pictures. Okay. Iceland to hang up her harpoons for good, issuing no more whaling permits. Whales off the coast of Iceland will be left alone by the end of next year, after the nation's fisheries minister announced the cancellation of all new permits for commercial whaling. The country had already banned international whaling crews in their waters. But now, once the current permits expire in 2023, the practice will end for good. Still, only one whale was hunted last year, as there is little economic demand for it in the land of fire and ice. In fact, a 2018 Gallup poll found that 84% of Icelanders had never eaten whale meat. I think I want to be in that group as well, people that don't eat whale meat. For 10 years, the International Fund for Animal Welfare has been campaigning to persuade Icelanders that whales are worth more alive than gone. New economic feasibility studies find that whales would generate more tourism revenue from being seen on whale watching tours, which I do think are cute, than from being eaten. And the campaign generated 175,000 signatures, the largest signature campaign in the nation's history. Transcend Media Service reports that hundreds of thousands of whale watchers visited the northern European nation in 2019 to observe both the minke whales, the world's smallest baleen whale, and fin whales, the world's second largest species. Whale sightings are bound to become more lively in coming years now that average annual catches will drop to zero from around 83 caught yearly from 200 in 2003 to 2019. I mean, 83 whales does seem like quite a few, just considering how massive they are. Just how massive those whales are. Here, let me put something else on in the background too, because I do feel like we don't have quite enough ambience. Let me know how that is. The first public microgrid in the U.S. is powering up in Chicago to keep energy flowing during emergencies. Recent winter storms in Texas, as well as Gulf Coast hurricanes and heat waves in California, have forced utilities. Have forced utilities to think about more resilient power grids. In Chicago, where the threat of winter blizzards, summer power surges, and deadly tornadoes can leave tens of thousands of residents without power for many days, a new microgrid is on the cusp of becoming a model for the country. ComEd, the electric and gas utility company with 10 million customers, has successfully completed final testing of a microgrid integration, a network of solar panels, generators, batteries, that will increase energy security and resilience for residents and businesses on Chicago's South Side. The impact of this project will be felt the world over as the industry better understands what is possible in integrating clean energy technologies, said Professor Amin Kodai of the University of Denver. Microgrids are small power grids with defined boundaries. They can operate in conjunction with the main grid or disconnect and operate standalone to keep power flowing. The tests demonstrated how distributed energy resources DER, such as solar photovoltaic PV and battery energy storage, can be used to support microgrid operations and enhance the resilience of the grid during disruptive events such as storms or natural disasters. During the test, the microgrid successfully disconnected and reconnected to the main power grid without taking any interruptions in service to customers. Almost forgot something, actually. Located in the historic black neighborhood of Bronzeville, this community microgrid will directly serve more than 1,000 residents, businesses, and public institutions, as well as critical public services. Including the Chicago Police and Fire Department headquarters, the legendary Chicago Police. Lovely. Demonstrating microgrid technology has presented numerous engineering challenges, and we've met them all, said Michelle Blaise, Senior Vice President of Technical Services from ComEd. These technologies will support a higher level of service to communities throughout our region and drive the entire industry to a more resilient and sustainable future. The collaboration involves partnerships with universities, national labs, and suppliers, and has utilized a $4 million grant awarded by the U.S. Department of Energy's Solar Energy Technologies Office. This project has provided us the opportunity to develop the algorithms that enable utilities to integrate distributed energy technologies while enhancing the resilience of the distribution system, says Professor Code. ComEd is scheduled to complete the installation of DER into the microgrid this year before becoming fully operational. So there's a little video that comes with this one. I think we should, I don't know, it seems like a cool thing to watch. Oh, whoops. Not what I meant to grab, actually. There we go.
This is an area that has a low-income population, underserved, underrepresented.
Wherever you see the problem, that's the opportunity.
That's a good way to put that.
This is one of the first communities that we've been able to establish some new technologies in. Our flagship project is a microgrid located here in Bronzeville. Then we have off-grid lighting, EV technologies, battery energy storage, solar.
Those are the kinds of
Oh my gosh, look at that. That's a great model.
the opportunity to start their own businesses, to actually
They're going to head out for now, but the stream's been lovely. You hope all have a good rest of our night. Well, thank you so much, Ella. You know, you're welcome here anytime I'm streaming, and I hope to see you back soon. I am really hoping I get to talk to you more in the near future, and I hope that you can enjoy the Mishmash too. I think I invited you to that one. So good night to you, and thanks for coming by.
work that we're doing is now coupled with meeting the basic needs of individuals in the community. While we're saving the planet, we're also saving people.
How can we introduce the technology that's coming forward, solar energy and things of that nature to our children? Let's start in our freshman year. They're learning what it actually takes to look at the solar energy, how to examine the solar energy. To see our children understand how entire grid works to light a whole neighborhood. They really take pride in building their grids out, and they can explain exactly how to conduct it.
Young people learn a trade. They're able to take their learning and walk out of that with a job.
We're trying to give them the leg up, help them identify opportunities where they can pursue a career.
We've instilled hope.
I love that guy's hair right there. Gosh. I've always been a fan of just that single straight, like, white through someone's hair. I think that's really cool looking.
When you engage people and you ask them, what do you need and how can I help you? It demonstrates what a company can do.
We want to see Bronzeville as producers of social systems that are necessary to make sure that fairness, equity, opportunity are available to everybody.
That was lovely. Yeah, I for the most part have never been too deep into like electrical engineering and stuff like that, but it is a really interesting thing to have all that electrical stuff going off at once. And I think if I was more into electronics, then that would be super interesting to me. As it stands right now, though, it's not the coolest thing I can think of, but I mean, there are certainly a lot of, I mean, I don't know, you guys. Maybe it's just me, but I think that that is so ridiculously awesome that we have all of those things happening all at once. Like, I can't even imagine, like, I mean, you know, the like the super colliding, the hydrogen colliders and stuff like that alone is really been like a super highlight of this year. But it just makes me happy that the year's not even all that way finished yet. It's not even like all done yet. So here's another one. The most important prehistoric discovery in the century is revealed by the British Museum. It helps backup generate power during bad storms. That's exactly what it's like. So like when there's a problem and the city is cut off from the main power supply that runs through, like from whatever part of the city that's generating it, because that part of the city still has power. The part of the city that's like next to the generator is still fine. But the power that is, the part of the city that is not connected to that, it's just on its own for a little bit, which is really bad. But if everything ran on a microgrid, meaning everything was like, I think Bronzeville is 10 blocks, it might be 20. If everything was like every 20 blocks was like its own system of its own energy development, meaning it has its own solar, its own wind, its own economy of like transportation and logistics. If each area had that, that would mean that during a storm, the backup generator would like be basically on perpetually, and it would just never go off. You would just have like a thing that would like, you know, maybe someone might notice the difference, but maybe you just wouldn't even know if you ran out of power because it wouldn't be any different. I like that a lot, actually. I think it's great. Oh, hey, it's okay. And that's the future, right? That's the intent of the future. The most important prehistoric discovery in a century revealed by the British Museum. It is great. Yeah, I like it a lot. I don't know how many. There's a couple of images. You know, we'll do that. There's a couple of images in there, but I'll let you guys read those for yourself. The British Museum has announced the discovery of the most important piece of prehistoric art to be found in Britain in the last 100 years. The object is a 500-year-old chalk sculpture and was discovered on a country estate near the village of Burton Ains, I think it's Ains, in East Yorkshire. The sculpture was first unearthed in a routine excavation by Allen Archaeology in 2015, and has since been studied extensively and conserved. Its existence is now confirmed to be one of the most significant ancient objects ever found on the British Isles. This remarkable discovery is now on a public display for the very first time as part of the British Museum's The World of Stonehenge exhibition, which is open until July of 2022. The sculpture is decorated with elaborate motifs that reaffirm a British and Irish artistic style that flourished at exactly the same time as Stonehenge was built. Oh, the aliens! Oh, they're invading! Watch out. Okay. I can get into your DMs later, Moss. It was uncovered alongside the burial of 3 children. The children are different ages and were buried in close contact in a moving scene. Described as a chalk drum, it is only the 4th example of its kind known to have survived. Despite the use of the term drum, they are not thought to have had a musical function rather than they were work as sculptural art, perhaps intended as talismans to protect the children they accompanied. A radiocarbon date from one of the child's bones in Burton Ends identifies the burial as 3005 to 2890 BC. My gosh, that's old. It also confirms for the first time that these burial drums were made at the same time as the first construction phase of Stonehenge. Wow. This is significant because it suggests that at the same time as the monument's blue stones were being moved, hundreds of kilometers from West Wales to Salisbury Plain, communities across Britain and Ireland were also sharing artistic styles and probably beliefs over remarkable distances. The drum was accompanied by a chalk ball and a polished bone pin, which lay beneath the head of one of the children. The chalk ball is a type of object that has also recently been found by archaeologists at the site of Bulford, close to Stonehenge. Its symbolism is unclear. It could be a fertility symbol or even a toy held dear by a child. The bone pin is a similar object, and it's similar to the other objects placed within the burials inside Stonehenge at around the same time, probably around the same time as Burton Ends' drum and was buried at 3000 BC-ish. The Burton Ends drum is also one of the most elaborately decorated objects of this period found anywhere in Britain and Ireland. Every inch of the object is decorated with motifs that are on a range of prehistoric objects, including pottery and stone balls and architectural surfaces, some incorporated within houses and tombs. This was the artistic style of the people who built Stonehenge and related monuments across Britain and Ireland. It helps to illustrate the joined-up nature of society during this period and the vibrant artistic culture of the time. The motifs themselves are abstract but may convey symbolism or religious principles that have yet to be deciphered. The discovery of the Burton Ends grave is highly moving, said Neil Wilkin, curator of the World of Stonehenge at the British Museum. The emotions the new drum expresses are powerful and timeless. They transcend the time of Stonehenge and reflect a moment of tragedy and despair that remains undimmed after 5,000 years. We were all stunned to see all of it up close when it came off site, said Mark Allen, director of Allen Archaeology. The detailed relief carving on the drum is quite something to behold and shows great skill by its maker. Research is ongoing on the drum, the burials, and the surrounding excavations, and we look forward to publishing more on this in the future. Ah, lovely. Okay, so just 1 second here, folks. Okay, cool. So here's our next one. And let me put this one in the chat for you. Oh my gosh. An ancestral drum fossil. It's true. It's very true. So would you like some more music on Rain, or would you prefer to keep it just the wind like this? because I don't mind either way. I'll put this on, in fact, just a little bit of a quiet one for a little bit. Okay, I hope that works for you. Scientists obtain first high-res 3D image of muscle protein. Nebulin is no longer nebulous. Scientists have obtained the first high-resolution 3D image of Nebulin, a giant actin-binding protein that is an essential component of skeletal muscle. This discovery shines a light on the mysterious role of, you're welcome, Nebulin, a protein whose functions remain cloudy due to its large size, and the difficulty of extracting it to a native state from muscle. You're welcome. The team of Max Planck researchers used electron cryotomography to decipher the structure of Nebulin in impressive detail. Their findings could lead to novel therapeutic approaches to treat muscular diseases because genetic mutations in Nebulin are accompanied by a dramatic loss in muscle force, known as Nemeline myopathy. Knowing the structure of Nebulin and how it interacts with actin could be pivotal to the development of new treatments. But traditional experimental approaches that reconstitute Nebulin in vitro have failed because of the size of the protein and flexibility and the fact that it is intertwined with actin. Gotta go down here a little bit, I think. Skeletal and heart muscles contract and relax upon sliding of parallel filaments of the proteins myosin and actin. Nebulin, another long, slender protein, which is present only in skeletal muscle, pairs up with actin, stabilizing and regulating it. Mutations in the gene encoding Nebulin can produce an abnormal Nebulin that causes Nemeline myopathy, an incurable neuromuscular disorder with various degrees of severity, from muscle weakness to speech impediments and respiratory problems. Led by Stefan Raunzer, director at the Max Planck Institute of Molecular Physiology in Dortmund, in collaboration with Matthias Gautel at King's College London, the team took a different approach. They visualized these proteins directly in their native environment. The muscle, by using a powerful microscopy technique called electron cryotomography. A cryo-ET experiment in the Raunzer lab begins with flash freezing muscle samples. Then scientists apply a gallium-based ion beam to the sample to shave away extra material from it and reach an ideal thickness of around 100 nanometers for the transmission electron microscope. I think actually this is a great time for me to use that night thing I was looking at before. I'll actually do that later. This powerful tool then acquires multiple images of the sample tilting along an axis. Finally, computational methods render a three-dimensional image at an impressively high resolution. Pushing the limits of cryo-ET. Oh, lovely. Here, let me get that out of there. In a 2021 publication, the Max Planck researchers produced the first detailed 3D image of the sarcomere, the basic contractile unit of skeletal and heart muscle cell that contains actin, myosin, and eventually the Nebulin protein. The resolution of 1 nanometer, a millionth of a millimeter, was good enough to imagine actin and myosin, but too low for visualizing nebulin. This time, the team improved their data acquisition and processing pipeline to obtain a 3D picture of a skeleton muscle, a filament, at near atomic resolution, which was 0.45 nanometers. I don't even know how small that actually is. You know what I mean? Like, I know that that's small, but I don't actually know how small. By comparing the images of the skeletal muscle with the nebulin-free cardiac muscle, the structure of the long nebulin protein became distinct, and the other researchers were able to build an atomic model of nebulin. Holy moly. This is the first high-resolution structure using FIB milling and cryo-ET, and it proves that we can reach atomic models in a reliable way. It's a quantum leap, says Raunter. The findings reveal that each nebulin repeat binds with an actin subunit, demonstrating nebulin's role as a ruler that dictates the length of the actin filament. Besides, each nebulin repeat interacts with every neighboring actin subunit, which explains its role as a stabilizer. Finally, the scientists propose that nebulin regulates the binding of actin and myosin, and hence muscle contraction, by interacting with another protein called troponin. Experiments were done on mouse muscles that are very similar to the human ones, and were isolated at King's College London. We obtain a detail in situ 3D structure of nebulin, actin, and myosin heads that can be used to pinpoint the mutations leading to myopathies, notes Raunter. Researchers can then take advantage of this new structure to locate binding sites for targeting with small molecules of pharmaceutical interest, he adds. Driven by their recent success, the group will now concentrate on unveiling the structural details of myosin, the other sliding filament. What a nebulin is, sure. Such findings could finally help paint the complete picture of the intricate details behind skeletal muscle contraction. Interesting. So, what is a nebulin? Let me look this up for you. A nebulin. A nebulin is an actin-binding protein which is localized to a thin filament of the sarcomerase in skeletal muscle. It is a very large protein, 600 to 900 kDa, and binds as many as 200 actin monomers. So basically what this is the part of your body that allows allowing other pieces of protein to bind to it, particularly actins, which are a type of monomer, which I believe is also a protein, and they connect to a sarcomerase, which is a skeletal structure. This is a protein in skeletal muscles. I think it's closer to the connective tissue from skeletons to muscles is what this probably is about. Now, this is pretty big stuff, so you're gonna have to give me a moment to try and understand it myself. A sarcomerase is the smallest functional unit of striated muscle tissue. It is the repeating unit between two Z lines. Skeletal muscles are composed of tubular muscle cells called muscle fibers and myofibers, which are formed during embryonic myogenesis. Muscle fibers contain numerous tubular myofibrils and are composed of repeating sections of sarcomerase, which appear under the microscope as alternating dark and light bands. Sarcomerase are composed of long fibrous proteins as filaments that slide past each other when a muscle contracts or relaxes. It's fun learning. The costamere is a different component that connects the sarcomere with the sarcolemma. So it sounds like it's saying that, yeah, it is a kind of film that is like a muscle tissue that acts as the coherent between a layer on the skeleton and a layer on the actual muscles attached to the skeleton. Whew. Well, we might look into that a little more later, but for now we're going to look at the bubbly blue soda that gets its color from the sea and captures CO2 with every batch. I want to drink this really badly. I'll show it to you guys. It looks really tasty. It looks actually really, really tasty. Let's see. Look at this. Oh, it just looks so cool. It looks like some kind of like virgin drink that you would get from like a bar or something. And I like that a lot. You don't drink pop, but this is interesting. I agree. It's very interesting. Arf, 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 arf. I like the doggos coming around the screen. Dutch food scientists have created a bright turquoise soda made from a kind of algae which absorbs more carbon than it emits through the production process. Sustainability aside, the soda is made from a superfood called spirulina that features in many health and beauty products. I was just talking about spirulina. That's a synchronicity, and which offers tremendous health benefits, which the producers are counting on as being a chief driver in sales. Go, Doggo, go, I know. There they go. Called Fool, the curious, vivid blue color is a gamble which the creators, looking to accelerate a transition to net zero emissions in their home country, are willing to take. And they're aiming for the brand name to be synonymous with the rare color in the next 10 years. Algae solutions are popular in the Netherlands, and Dutch product designers have used it as a 3D printing material to make chairs and shampoo bottles, fuel for vehicles, and now as a base and flavoring agent for soda. Fool is currently produced in white peach and lemon ginger flavors at a local Dutch brewery that's a large producer of the food-grade CO2 which feeds the algae that make the beverage and a large buyer of glass bottles. The Fool folks metaphorically connected the brewery's exhaust pipe with the soda machine's air intake and have made the whole process carbon negative by around 1.5 kilos of CO2 per kilo of soda. Wow. When you have this really wonderful closed-loop system that could be highly localized, but also scalable all over the world using existing infrastructure, one of three co-founders, Julia Struley, told Fast Company. The drink is a source of vitamin C, calcium, antioxidants, magnesium, chlorophyll, and a rare source of chelating agents which remove heavy metals from the blood, putting it more in competition with kombucha than with Coke. The beverage is currently unavailable in the US, but it can be ordered in the EU and UK with the occasional discovery inside health food shops. Oh man, I want to order this now. I want to order this. It can be ordered. Oh, but not in the United States. No. Oh, too bad. I guess it's just how it's going to be. Will this happen to go into a black and white mode just for my eye's sake? Oh, it did. Oh, lovely. I'm very glad to see that. So, this is the woman that escaped slavery by hiding in plain sight, disguised as a white man. I really like this story, you guys. I really like this story. Okay, so Shakespeare's works are famous for portraying... Oh, excuse me. Here we go. Shakespeare's works are famous for portraying cross-dressing, particularly for those with the purpose of dealing dastardly and playing tricks on people. However, his fictions are nothing compared to the realities during slavery in America, where several enslaved people completed incredible escapes by disguising themselves as white. I didn't even know this ever happened, but it makes sense. The most famous, perhaps, is that of Ellen and William C. Craft, an enslaved married couple from Macon, Georgia, who decided to take a chance on Ellen's half-white and very fair skin to dress her up as an affluent young white man and make a 5-day journey to the north. William would come along pretending to be Ellen's slave. Recounted in breath-holding detail in their memoir, Running 1,000 Miles for Freedom, it's a story worthy of remembering as Black History Month draws to a close. After deciding to escape, William, who had some considerable talent as a cabinet maker, began to buy men's clothes for Ellen. Oh gosh, including a top hat, green spectacles, and a long jacket. This is a really great plan. Neither spouse could read, and considering the need to sign agreements for payments, hotel guest books, and passenger logs, they decided to feign illness in her right arm by bandaging it and hanging it in a sling and claiming they were visiting a specialist in Philadelphia. As a pair possessed unique skill sets among enslaved peoples, their circumstances allowed them to obtain written permission to leave their enslaver's property for the purpose of errands. A series of close encounters followed in the days after their December 21st, 1848 escape, including on their first train ride to Savannah, Georgia, when the passenger Ellen was seated next to her horror, was a dear friend of her previous enslaver. Already bandaged, Ellen pretended to be deaf the whole way. Despite enduring some unsavory language at the hand of a steamboat worker and by an army captain, by the time they reached Charleston, South Carolina, they were able to stay at the finest hotel and restaurant, where the staff were all too eager to care for an invalid young man. They then took a steamboat to Wilmington, North Carolina, a train to Richmond, Virginia, and another steamboat to Maryland. With one last voyage by train, the two discovered they weren't allowing enslaved people traveling on trains to the north for fear they could be escaping. Ellen was hard-pressed for proper documentation to prove that William belonged to her, when a sympathetic conductor, once again falling for the bandaged arm, skirted them around the restrictions and boarded them to Philadelphia. Oh, serendipity, right? On Christmas Day, the Crafts stepped off the train into Philadelphia. Ellen cried out, "Thank God, William, we're safe." Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Just imagine you literally get to Philadelphia and you're like you just tear off your disguise and you say, "I'm safe." Like, that's almost a cartoon, right? That's almost like an insane cartoon moment, or to start pulling off your disguise, peeling off your fake hair, taking off your fake clothes, pulling out your fake bandage and being like, "I did it, I made it. It's crazy." They quickly settled among abolitionist communities in Boston, found work, learned to read and write, and became outspoken critics of slavery. Abolitionists such as William Lloyd Garrison and William Wells Brown encouraged them to recount their escape. A big relief, exactly, a very big relief. In public lectures to the abolitionist circle of New England. After Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, the pair decided it was no longer safe for them in Boston, as two bounty hunters had been alerted of their whereabouts. I know, and then getting to escape. The two left American shores for England, where they raised 5 children in Hammersmith, and continued their ample campaigning on behalf of the enslaved back home, including through the publishing of William's book. The pro-slavery press in the U.S. had suggested the Crafts regretted their flight to England, and in 1852 Ellen Craft published the following, which was widely circulated in the abolitionist press in both the United Kingdom and the U.S. So I write these few lines merely to say that the statement is entirely unfounded, for I have never had the slightest inclination whatever of returning to bondage, and, God forbid, that I should ever be so false to liberty as to prefer slavery instead. In fact, since my escape from slavery, I have gotten much better in every respect than I could have possibly anticipated. Though, had it been to the contrary, my feelings in regard to this would have been just the same, for I had much rather starve in England a free woman than be a slave for the best man that ever breathed upon the American continent. Very well put. The Crafts returned to Georgia after the American Civil War in 1868 and began the Woodville Cooperative Farm School for freemen's children. That is an insane story. That is an absolutely insane story. That is just such a moment. Such a moment. Wow. Because we're having like a crazy vibe today with all these good stories. I'm gonna say it. It's a good vibe. So here's our next one. Farming households in rural India are earning extra money for their food that goes unsold by putting it through solar food dehydrators. In a country where intense heat can spoil food within days of harvesting, they can also keep it safe for months. Tens of thousands of tons of food in India goes to waste every year, often because it doesn't look appealing enough or because there's no access to refrigeration to keep it fresh. Normally, this would be simply a throwaway sort of thing, comporting a loss for those who often can't afford it. But now women in Maharashtra, in the west of India, are being hired to operate specially designed solar conduction dryers that suck every detectable trace of moisture out of food within just 4 hours. Every trace, every single one. Excess produce like tomatoes, garlic, onions, ginger, coconut, chilies, and corn are then turned into easy-to-use products and sold to 1,100 plus food and beverage industry. I think it's supposed to say 1,100 plus food and beverage industry customers of the solar dryers creator. S4S, or Science for Society. S4S solar conduction dryers also preserve 20 to 50% more nutrients than other methods, while reducing emissions from refrigeration and food waste. They claim they've prevented 350,000 metric tons of CO2 from entering the atmosphere and 40,000 tons of food waste through the use of these dryers, which have employed 800 women across the state. That's a lot of jobs, too. Many of whom, as the BBC reports, would have difficult time finding regular work. That's like, look at them go. They have so many more jobs. Gosh, I just love that. Now they can do something and earn money, and then there's more food too. So, I mean, it's a good thing for everybody, I'd say. Okay, guys, here's our video.
These simple devices are helping to cut food waste in India and empower the women who use them.
Good for them, man. Look at them go. The solar dryers.
These crops are perfectly edible, but because they don't look perfect, they often won't be sold.
Last year was great, but this year, because it rained so much, at least 50% of the tomatoes were rejected.
Many farms in India don't have access to refrigeration.
Yeah, so they just can't do anything about it.
Sold produce will quickly rot in the heat and become worthless. These women in the west of India have become part of the solution.
Oh my gosh, that's so fantastic.
They take unsold produce, like this ginger from nearby,
That ginger's so good for you too.
chop it up, and then dehydrate it. They use specially designed dryers that heat up under the sun.
When I started this, did the garlic, then onion, now it's ginger. Okay.
The devices are called solar conduction dryers.
Solar conduction dryers.
Inside them can reach 75 degrees Celsius. In 4 hours, the produce will completely dry out.
My gosh, this is like a huge thing.
That cause rotting can't survive.
And then you can just eat them whenever you want.
The process preserves the produce for about a year.
A year. I cut it, sort it, and dry it. Then seal it, weigh it, and send it all away. Oh, look how happy she is. Oh.
A company called Science for Society. Every few days, they collect what the women have dried and take it back to their factory. There it gets processed and packaged for delivery to restaurants and food companies. S4S estimates the solution prevents 40,000 tons of food from going to waste every year. They've supplied over 800 solar dryers to women in rural India, many of whom would have struggled to find regular work.
If you have to go to other villages, you see women have nothing to do. Thanks to this project, the women can work from home and earn some money, and I bet they get some extra food too. That's just my guess, but maybe I'm wrong.
They're paid about $80 per month for the work,
Hey,
making a big difference to their lives.
with a little extra money, we can send our children to a better school. With the farm work, we're limited to by the low earnings. Now we can do more for our children's education. And there's also a chance that just all of that food will get eaten now. Like all of it. There's just a chance that instead of like all of it, you know, either going to waste or all of it not getting sold, like there's a chance that like someone will just eat all of that. Like it will actually be used somewhere. So, here is our next one. We've only got a few left and then we're done for the evening. But I may stay on a little longer just to do a little bit of dwarf, if you guys are interested in seeing some dwarf right now. Old wind turbine blades used for bridge construction after they're retired. A new bridge has appeared in Ireland that is made from decommissioned wind turbines. Nice. The so-called Blade Bridge on the Middleton to Youghal Greenway in County Cork, is designed for pedestrians, cyclists, and emergency vehicles. Erected at the end of January, it is the brainchild of the Rewind Network. We talked about this already, actually. A research organization dedicated to address the global problem of end-of-life disposal of wind turbine blades. The estimated lifespan of non-biodegradable blades is 20 years, meaning that many will need to be disposed of in the near future. The Cork blades were donated by Belfast Bast wind turbine company Everrun, who explained, "Our engineering team decommissioned a N29 turbine, and we were happy to supply the blades from the turbine for the bridge project. The blades were transported to County Cork, where they will be repurposed as the main structural element on a number of small bridges, spanning the Greenway with two blades laying apart horizontally, with a walkway in between." Dwarf. Yeah, I know. The blades have recently gone through a deconstructive testing to ensure structural integrity, with the rest being retained for the actual construction. The interdisciplinary Rewind research team, comprising experts from City University of New York, Georgia Institute of Technology, University College Cork, and Queen's University Belfast, is seeking an alternative to unsustainable disposal methods, such as landfill and incineration. Rewind, with the rapid development of wind energy technology in the past 15 years, comes a new conundrum: how to dispose of the non-biodegradable blades in current wind turbines in a sustainable way. The problem is one of the enormous scale and size and levels. A typical 2.0 MW turbine has three 50-meter long blades containing around 20 tons of fiber reinforced polymer, FRP, composites. It is estimated that by 2050, 3.8 million tons of material from the global wind industry will await disposal. Oh, that's a lot. That's quite a bit. Lawrence Seed Bank, Georgia Institute of Technology says, "We are exploring the potential reuse of the blades across architecture and engineering. Developing such methods can have a positive effect on air quality and water quality by decreasing a major source of non-biodegradable waste." Well, lovely. That's another good one. We've got another 6 of these left altogether. This has been some great news. None of them are too long, and they're all about really cool stuff as well. Oh wow, this is a good one. So listen to this. Covering crops. Oh, here, let me get this for you in the chat. Covering crops in red plastic can boost yields up to 37%. For centuries, humans have used greenhouses to help plants grow outside of tolerable conditions. Now, as it turns out, it might be better instead of greenhouses that we call them red houses. The red spectrum of light stimulates the leaves of plants to produce more chlorophyll, and an Australian ag startup is wielding this basic science to create thick red films to cover existing greenhouses in order to boost plant production beyond what either the sun or greenhouses are normally capable of. Luminescent Light-Emitting Agriculture Films, or LLEAF, was founded by scientists from a partnership between the universities of New South Wales and Western Sydney. They produce and are now testing several different films to increase crop yields, with each one tailored to a different kind of plant. And some tea. Our luminescent light-emitting agricultural film, LLEAF, LEAF, is designed to supercharge natural sunlight by shifting the natural light into a light spectrum that is more beneficial for plant growth. Company co-founder Dr. Alex Soyariadi, I think, tells Future Food Systems, "Our trials indicate potential to increase yield, improve plant cycle, and harvest control." LLEAF 620 is a low red spectrum color to boost photosynthesis and increase production in most plants, while for aquatic plants, LLEAF 590 is the best choice for applications where light penetration through water is increased, and the growth rate requires this. Far red spectrum light is better for fruiting trees and flowers, for which LLEAF sells 2 different films, one for the production and another for growth, which climb to the 700 nanometer range of light spectrum. I didn't even know there were that many nanometers. The films are made from special dyes that absorb and diffuse photons from the green spectrum of light and emit it again as red light to increase plant photosynthesis. They reduce the amount of light which the plants can't use, and the diffusion of the light they can is done so more evenly and in a way as to reduce shadows. The plastics can be easily retrofitted to any existing greenhouse structure and are very durable. The dyes are 100% biodegradable and carbon-based, containing no metals, while the plastic sheeting is 100% recyclable. I don't think you can get much better than that, honestly. This is about as good as you can do. Let's see. Oh, superfoods. You know, I would like to do the superfoods one right now. That sounds like a good one. So here's our next one. These superfoods can provide important nutrients with a single bite. It's recyclable. I know it's true. So I've mentioned this before. What daily habits have you tried out in the name of good health? There's one habit I will never do. I will never eat beet juice unless it makes you better in every single way and live forever. I will not drink beet juice. I've just decided I hate the color of beet. I hate how much it stains everything it touches. I hate just the consistency, the texture of it, like when it's on like my mouth and tongue and going down my throat. Literally everything about beet juice I detest. I've taken this stance. This is my hill. This is my molehill to fight over. I will never drink beet juice. You will never see me doing it. Anyway, now that I've said that, Diana Rogers, an author and registered dietitian, is the host of the Sustainable Dish podcast, where she sometimes recounts her attempts to eat 100% of her daily values of all nutrients for a whole month. That is, to consume 100% without supplements. A nearly impossible task. I agree, it's very difficult. Rogers relied on eating liver, oysters, and other particular and sometimes expensive food sources every day to meet the demand. So I have an app called Chronometer. Chronometer is really helpful because it gives you basically 100% of the stuff that you need in your diet daily on average. So for me, I need a certain amount of carbs, which I eat less carbs than it tells me to because I'm trying to lose a bit of belly fat, which I'm actually doing really well at, I'm happy to say. And how many plant fibers you need, how many proteins you need. It even tells you the different kinds of proteins it would like you to have, which are not necessarily required, but most of them, it would be good to have them, right? At least if you get the B12s, you're good. Now, on most days, I am anywhere from 80 to 100% of the way there, right? Assuming that I have my carbs cut in half or less than that, which I usually do. And that's a pretty tough thing to get to 100%. 100% of your daily values of all nutrients is tough. It's a tough thing to do. Now, doing that is really easy by comparison to what she's doing when you have a supplement, because folates, where do you get folates from? I don't know. A folate is a kind of nutrient, a kind of vitamin. Not many foods have folate in them that we just eat every day, though. Okay, that's one. Omega-6. You get omega-6 from eggs. So that's good. But what about manganese? Where do you get manganese from? And also, there's just a number of things that's you would not be able to get that unless you had the specific food that it came from right in front of you. And supplements, they cut that out because it's it's just a pill that has nutrients in it. Congratulations on your weight loss. Keep it up or down. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Rain. Moss, excuse me. Thank you, Moss. The candle is right in front of that first letter there, and it's all orange for some reason, so it's a little hard to read, but thank you very much. Yet there are certain foods that are so rich in a particular nutrient that a mere bite can satisfy one's daily requirements. Sometimes these foods are not advocated for by the government, agencies in particular, because they go against existing nationwide recommendations against eating too much meat or fatty foods. It bears repeating that RDAs are recommended daily allowances set by government agencies and have long been established at the bare minimum for survival. Harry Hemila, a researcher at the Department of Public Health University of Helsinki in Finland, details that even as late as 1990, the RDA recommendations for vitamin C were arbitrarily set at 60 milligrams a day to provide an adequate margin of safety against scurvy, even though the Nobel Prize-winning scientist who first discovered vitamin C advocated for a gram a day, and that there were all kinds, and there are, of problems that can arise from low vitamin C intake before the premortal condition of scurvy. However, in a single bite covers the bare minimum, it isn't outlandish to imagine a second would serve as a realistic 100% dose. And here are some of those 1 to 3 bite doses. Selenium is from the Brazil nut, Selenium is important for many processes. It is one of the principal resources for neurogenesis, and its dietary addition increases creation of new neurostem cells, even in mice aged the equivalent of 80 years in humans. Also, in the body, it's used to create antioxidants, while its effects preventing cancer are currently being investigated. Deficiencies in selenium can lead to severely compromised intestinal function and dysregulation in the use of zinc and copper in the body. Vitamin C, kiwi or guava. It's important for the creation of antioxidants and defenses, synthesizing collagen, fighting off diseases, and much more. One medium kiwi will provide 273% of the already discussed RDA of vitamin C, which is more of a suggestion than it is, what people are saying is probably necessary. Picking up a kiwi is much easier to eat and is more familiar than a guava, but a guava fruit contains far more dehydroascorbic acid, a form of vitamin C, than a kiwi. Dehydroascorbic acid is used by 2 of the major glucose transporters and therefore vital for metabolic health. Oh no, vitamin B12, sardines. I don't like sardines. A cofactor in DNA synthesis, vitamin B12 is critical in both fatty acid and amino acid metabolism. It is important in the normal functioning of the nervous system via its role in the synthesis of myelin and in the maturation of red blood cells in the bone marrow. It is a common deficiency in the diets of vegetarians and vegans, based on the fact that plants use other biological equipment to perform the functions which animals do with B12. Oftentimes, B12 is extremely necessary in everybody's diet, especially if you are vegetarian or vegan. But you can get that in almost every single supplement over the counter has B12, if it's like a daily supplement. A single can of sardines and olive oil will provide 130% of one's B12 needs. Yeah, but you have to actually eat them to get that, so that's the real problem. Copper and vitamin A. Beef liver. Yes, beef liver isn't commonly eaten in the United States or most other places. Modern society has lost its custom for the metallic and slightly bitter flavor of organ meat. However, if one can but fry beef liver in a pan and cut it into 1 ounce, 28-gram slices and eat just one of these a day, they would be conferring upon themselves and their family 208% of the RDA for copper and 146% of their RDA for vitamin A. Because of its role in facilitating iron uptake, copper deficiency can produce anemia-like symptoms, neutropenia, bone abnormalities, hypoapigmentation, and impaired growth. Vitamin A, on the other hand, is in a class of different compounds, some well known of which are retinol and beta-carotene, which have a large variety of functions. Sardines are great on pizza. No! Sardines, no! Oh, gosh. Thank you for pouring the salt on, though. I appreciate that. It's essential for embryo development and growth, for maintenance of the immune system, and for vision. Vitamin K in collards greens. Vitamin K is vital for blood health. In particular, the function of blood coagulation is seriously impaired under low K conditions. It allows for the liver to create a secondary molecule that chelates calciums and regulates the binding of calcium to bones. Chelates. I never heard the word chelates before. Just 1 ounce of collard greens contains 154% of one's RDA for vitamin K. K isn't usually a common deficiency, but can be found within people who are a particular aversion to green vegetables. Well, you're going to have to get that fixed, my man, because you need your vitamin K, as much as I don't like the idea. Pineapples, yes, no. I will give you my opinion. This was bound to come up eventually, as I see it. So this is my opinion on pineapple on pizza. Pineapple on its own has an acidic nature to it that dissolves proteins which is why it's used with ham on pizza, because the ham becomes very tender and very easy to eat, as well as a lot of the proteins in the cheese become more tender, and it has more of a consistency that is befitting like a chomp. Now, when that is cooked, I would say that the effect is spread across the pizza and has a very high contingency on the other toppings, of course. But just eating that on its own, when I had a diet that allowed me to eat cheese, I was working at a place called Marco's Pizza. And Marco's, people would make all sorts of pizzas, Hawaiians, whatever. And the way you would eat at Marco's, if you couldn't afford to bring a lunch, is they would just be like, there would be these pizzas called mess ups. And a mess up pizza is just a pizza that no one's going to eat, because whoever bought it canceled the order, or whoever made it made a mistake, and so they can't sell it anymore. So if you have a pizza you can't sell, you're not just going to throw it away if you have hungry employees. So the employees eat the mess ups. One of those mess ups happened to be a Hawaiian. Every now and again as well, people buy pizzas for the whole staff, because they're just like, well, I'm hungry and I'm not going to eat the whole pizza, so everyone else can eat it too. Like, that sort of thing happens as well. There was a mess up of Hawaiian pizza that was just a regular Hawaiian. It didn't have any ham, though. It was the only difference. And so there's some pieces of it. It was a little old. I took up the pizza in my hand. It looks a little strange having the circle, or the pieces pointing at you. It was the circles in this case, just like a couple of circles of pineapple on the piece. When I bit into it, everyone talks about the being this if you've seen the movie Ratatouille, the moment where there's music that is specific to flavor combinations, like umami's pairing in your brain, and you can detect the combination of flavors as opposed to each of them individually. When I bit into that piece of pizza, I didn't taste anything but pineapple. So it wasn't like a new sensation and a new flavor experience to me. It was just eating pineapple on pizza. And I couldn't even taste the pizza at that point, so I might as well have just been eating pineapple. I'm not against pineapple on pizza. I wouldn't put it on my pizza, but honestly, it is the kind of thing that if you could find a number of ingredients that made the flavor of the pizza stronger, or made it have a more, I would say, retaining quality to beat back that pineapple, because pineapple is very strong. It's a very, very strong ingredient in anything. Like pineapple juice, even when it's just the essence of a pineapple juice, no sugar added, pineapple juice still tastes pretty strong like pineapple. And I think that the idea of having more tomato sauce is probably something people rely on to defend the actual flavor of the pizza. But honestly, if that is the total perception that I can get from eating pineapples on pizza, I would go without. Not because I don't like it, but it's just because I don't taste anything but pineapple. And if I wanted to eat pineapples, I would just do that without putting the pizza on it in the first place. So there's my opinion about pineapples on pizza. It's a no. It's a soft no, though. It's just a soft no. Pizza flavored pineapple. Okay. So now you're getting into something else. If the pizza is just the flavors condensed into a pineapple, but it also tastes like pineapple too, that might be something. You see these crazy, you've had macaroni and cheese pizza. That does sound pretty nice. If you've ever gone to a pharmacy, I think a CVS pharmacy is a good place to look for these too. Walmart's have them as well. You'll sometimes see you can only eat pizza without cheese, and green olive pizza. Green olive pizza is pretty nice too. You get these Ruffles and Lay's bags that have the most ridiculous flavors. You'll see I think it was chicken wing flavored Ruffles. The texture is strange. It is a strange texture, I admit. It's kind of having a strange. It's it is having fruit on your pizza. It's a slice of fruit. It's not normal for a pizza taste. And You have chicken wing flavored, you have barbecue flavored chips, you have sour cream and onion, one of my favorites. And then you have like waffles and chicken wings. And then you have like maple syrup flavored or ketchup flavored or, some of the other ones like bacon flavored chips. I mean, there's just, it's kind of like that to me. I don't inherently disagree with making chips that are of crazy flavors. I just don't think I need to have that flavor in my life. And like the second I have that first chip, I'm going to be like, okay, the cheese is strange. I agree. The cheese is strange. I've gotten used to it though. I have to eat pizza without cheese these days though because of my dairy allergy, unfortunately. But I mean, just the nature of like having a chip that when you bite into it does not taste like A, potato chips for the most part, or B, like something sour cream and onion, or barbecue. Those are the three things that I expect from a potato chip. When you say pizza flavored potato chip, I'm kind of at a loss. But I remember the thing I didn't like about the pizza flavored, I think they were Pringles, was the look of them. They looked like they were like somebody that had gotten sunburned. It was like the color of the potato chip. And I was like, I don't want to eat somebody's sunburn. You know, like, it looked like it was a sunburned piece of skin. And I was like, I don't want to eat that. Because I thought I'd get sunburned. I don't know why I thought that, but that was literally what I was thinking when I thought of like, should I eat these foods anymore? And that might have been a good idea because I swear to you, these combinations of flavors, I feel like they verge on something a little strange. Not bad, but strange. And I think for the moment, I know what you mean, Chia. I know what you mean. They verge on being like, I don't think this is for me anymore. And I'm like, I have found barbecue. I have found sour cream and onion. I don't think I need more than that in my life. For now, at least. Like, I've had Flaming Hot Cheetos, which gave me some of the worst acne of my life. But, I mean, honestly, though, I don't think I need more than that. I think I'm okay just going the way that I'm going right now. I think I'm okay just keeping things as they are. And I actually don't even eat barbecue flavored chips, scarcely as it is. And I never eat sour cream and onion chips because they have cheese in them and, lactose and all that. But you know what I miss more than anything else? Two things. I miss 4 cheese. I miss like 4 cheese ravioli and like a lovely hard cheese ravioli. And I miss oatmeal raisin cookies from like a City Bites or something. City Bites has some of the best oatmeal raisin cookies, and I can't eat any of either of those. It's a shame. Lasagna too, because I do like lasagna, but I mean, it's the ravioli. You get that ravioli and like some super good marinara sauce. I mean, you can't get much better than that as far as like a good meal goes. That's as good as it gets for me. And then you might have some grape juice or maybe a little bit of an energy drink or something. See, that's like the diet that sometimes I dream about, is having that crazy diet where I can just drink these amazing tasting things that are bad for me, and just all sorts of things. But it is not a healthy diet for me, unfortunately. So I'm going to get to our last one. This is also another Black History Month story, which I'm very happy to read for you guys. The first one was really good. This one's also very good. The greatest American frontier hero was a former slave. The story of Bass Reeves. Even the most cliched screenwriter in Hollywood could be made to feel ridiculous and over the top if they wrote a story with a character called Bass Reeves. And doubly so if that character was a legendary lawman who was deadly with his revolver. Fortunately, it was reality that produced this real-life Wyatt Earp, and not Hollywood. And as Black History Month winds to a close, it's worth remembering one of the finest officers of the law who ever wore a badge in this country. Born in 1838, Bass Reeves made over 3,000 arrests over a 32-year career as a deputy marshal. Wow. And took down 14 criminals in self-defense in a part of the country where 1/3 of the law enforcers were felled by outlaws. Gosh. That's a tough life. It's a very tough life being a lawman in the West. A freed slave who knocked his enslaver out during a fight over a card game, Reeves fled to the Indian Territory and lived among the Cherokee Creeks and Seminoles until he was freed by the 13th Amendment, after which he moved to Arkansas to start a new life as a farmer. Oh, this is a lovely story. Historians speaking with People magazine detail how he became the first black U.S. deputy marshal west of the Mississippi. What a man. Before he was a marshal, though, he was a guide for marshals, as he had learned to speak the languages of many Native American groups, and so that district judge called on him to help track outlaws that would often go to hide out in their territory. Bass was the most prolific enforcement officer we've ever had in the United States. David Kennedy, the curator at the United States Marshals Museum, told People. During his time, he worked the territories of Arkansas, Texas, and Oklahoma. There were lots of people and lots of places to hide, and the outlaws there were always ready to fight, said Art Burton, a Reeves historian. It was the most dangerous area in the Wild West. It was a really bad place for federal lawmen, and Bass basically walked into this valley of death every day for 32 years. According to this pair of historians, along with being part Wyatt Earp, he was also part Sherlock Holmes and part Robin Hood. Oh my gosh, folks, let's go. This would make a good movie. As he was always kind and considerate with everyone he met, and often donned disguises to improve his reportedly excellent detective skills while hunting fugitives. And if those traits didn't succeed in apprehending his mark, then the Wyatt Earp part would, and he could fire successfully at a quarter mile with his Winchester rifle. He even volunteered to go solo in arresting his own son, found guilty. And that was because he didn't want any other deputies getting hurt, and his son came quietly. The historians conclude that it's impossible to know for sure if Reeves was the inspiration for the Lone Ranger, but his legend lives on. So, folks, that is, I think, the best story we've had all day. Bass Reeves, just an absolute titan of everything. I mean, he's just a great dude. Good for him. So, to all of you cowpokes out there, thank you so much for taking some time out of your lovely and amazing weeks to hang out with me here in chat and to either lurk later, lurk now, or watch at your own convenience. Thank you very much for showing up. Thank you very much for staying. And I'm glad we got to do another one of these, because I always, oh man, it has been a special day. I'll say that much, you guys. It's been a very special day. And as always, thank you so much for being here again. Have a safe, lovely, quiet evening. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.